This is Geeky Vices with J-Belle, where I talk about bits of geekdom and pop culture that I've been into lately. So, the general vibe of the show is that it is unrehearsed, unedited, unhip. I don't care what's the latest and greatest. I kind of just go meander wherever my interests take me. Also, to forewarn you, I do tend to be spoiler light about the topic to eat. Hint, hint, hint. But I try avoiding major spoilers. So, just so you're forewarned. Anyways, I'm really excited about this week's topic because it's actually one of the shows that originally made me want to start doing these videos, and that is the anime Assassination Classroom, which I feel like is amazing, and I feel like it's also below the radar. I haven't heard people talking about it. I don't know if it's because it's hasn't been on Netflix, which is how I know a lot of people get into anime these days, or if just maybe I'm out of the loop as far as like people talking about what's animes are into. I mean, here's the thing. I notice that there's, besides a lot of the classic animes, like, from back in, like, the 90s, like, I notice there's kind of, like, waves of, like, this is the anime everyone's talking about. Kind of like how, like, there's shows that, like, years ago, everyone was talking about Breaking Bad. Have you watched the latest episode? And, like, same with Game of Thrones. With anime, like, it used to be, I remember it would be Attack on Titan. For a while, like, everyone was talking about Attack on Titan, and lately, these days, it's My Hero Academia, which, both those are ones I haven't really watched much of. I've only gotten through the first episode of Attack on Titan. I've looked over the shoulder for a few episodes of My Hero Academia, but I haven't watched it consistently, but someday, especially My Hero Academia, that's, like, a little bit more my speed. Attack on Titan, not as much my genre, but hey, I'm gonna watch it too, because I am intrigued by it, and I like the idea of Titanic-sized monsters. So, yeah. Anyways, part of what it keeps on making me rewatch this Assassination Classroom is, the funny thing is that with my D&D group, everyone accuses our dungeon master of being using tentacle monsters almost every time. It's like, it's not, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of tentacle monsters used, but it's also like, that just happens to be how it is in D&D, and it's also like we as a group will construe something as tentacles even if it doesn't. So I kind of wanted to have it kind of made me be like, well, Assassination Classroom did a really unusual take on tentacles. So, before we get started, yes, there are tentacles involved, and it is not a hentai. So, the whole premise of the series is that at this one elite junior high, there's basically the way that it's structured is that basically if you're not succeeding, if you're falling behind, you're threatened to be put into E class, like basically where all the losers are, and basically like everyone they're just denigrated and they're treated worse, and they're in a whole separate part of the school, like the old school, like where they have to like go up, like either up or down a hill, and like in the middle of the forest, while the rest of it's like a brand new like fancy school. And, like, there's no air conditioning, and basically it's, like, you're basically just considered, like, once you're in E-class, your life is considered over at that junior high. So that's the structure. It's, like, it's kind of, like, the motivation to keep, and the reason, the principal wants that structure to maintain, because he basically wants it that way. It pushes people to not just be middling. It's, like, it pushes people to, like, excel and go above, like, their normal limits, because there's that fear of becoming one of the untouchables of the school. So, like, he thinks it's important for the greater good of the school. So, like, the principal is interesting and complicated, and he is an adversary. I wouldn't say he's an outright villain, but he is an adversary. So that's not even, and, like, he's not even the biggest thing of the show. So basically there's E-class, and the thing is that we find out that recently a giant hole was blown up in the moon. Well, and the thing is that it's a government secret, and E-class is one of the few people that know it, that it turns out there is this yellow tentacled creature that they named Koro-sensei, who has taken credit, and he has all these crazy abilities. Like, he has tentacles, he has super speed, where he's been clocked in at Mach 5. He's very gelatinous. He regenerates really quickly. He has a really good sense of smell. He has, like, basically all these crazy abilities, and he's basically made a deal with the government that if they'll let him, he wants to teach E-class specifically, and that none of the students will be harmed, and that they will be the ones that they'll be trained to like how to assassinate him. So that's the premise, that basically this class of the school rejects are basically being trained to assassinate a super creature. And the thing is that the Koro-sensei is very much a caring teacher. Like, he very much cares about him. Like, he uses his super abilities to help out the students. Like, honestly, it's like, I would love to have a Koro-sensei as my teacher. Even though he definitely has his quirks. Like, he's definitely, like, superiority. He very much cares about how the students perceive him. Like, he very much his reputation. He's poor because he only works on a teacher salary. But he will travel across the world, the globe, like on his lunch break. So he'll be like, "Oh, I'm getting gelato from Italy on my lunch break, and I purposely routed myself by the North Pole to keep it cold." So, yeah, so he has all these things, and like he'll use his super abilities to help out the students. Like, for instance, in one of the earliest episodes, one of the students is really passionate about baseball, and his method of trying to kill Koro-sensei is. Oh yeah, that reminds me. The thing about Koro-sensei is he's immune to regular weapons. Like, they will, like, bullets, like, basically disintegrate in him. Like, if you try poisoning him, like, there's weird chemical reactions. Like, there's all sorts of things where, like, he's naturally resistant to most means of killing someone. But there's this one substance called anti-me BBs, where it's harmless to humans, but it basically disintegrates his flesh where it touches. So one of the students decides that, okay, well, guns aren't working, so let me try putting all these anti-me BBs on the space ball and throw it at him, and that'll be much more stealthy than a gun. And the thing is that it fails, of course, but the teacher, like, then does, like, "Oh, I noticed you were trying to emulate this professional baseball player." And, like, then the Koro-sensei, like, and the kid's all depressed about how, like, he's never going to be able to throw like that one guy. But then Koro-sensei basically travels to a baseball game and basically feels the guy, like, uses tentacles to feel the guy's form and such, which is all creepy. But when he comes back, he's like, "Okay, you don't have as much flexibility in your shoulders. You're never going to be able to throw like this guy. But you know what? You have more flexibility in your wrists and elbows. So you should do your own style." And so, yeah, so basically it's like he's always trying to lift up the students and motivate them in their own individual strengths. So that's one of the things that's cool, is like he's very much that. And I love one of the other teachers, Kurasama, who is he's basically like the government liaison between E-class and the actual government, and he also works as the PE teacher, but he is also legitimately a badass, but he's also very professional, and but he also treats the kids like adults. It's like he definitely is very sympathetic towards them, but like he's not all warm and cuddly. Like he's very much like keeps that professional boundary, but he is sympathetic to the fact that they do have this weird situation. Oh yeah, part of the reason why it's so important for Koro-sensei to get killed is because he says at the end of the school year he's going to blow up the world, just like the moon. So that's why like there's a innate timeline on it. So, and then for the students, there's this balance of like, well, we want to kill Koro-sensei because there's a huge bounty if we do it. So, and also the world will be saved. But also they are still students. They still have to do the exams and such. So like, well, if we do survive, there's still the rest of our lives. So it's that interesting balance, which I found the show is very, very aware of. Like, the thing is, like, it's definitely hyperly aware of itself in the unusual situation that they're in. Sorry, losing my tangent, but I do adore this show so much. But yeah, and the thing is, like, at first the kids, like, if they were so used to thinking of the scripts, like, they assumed someone else is going to be able to come in and do it for them, and then at some point they realize, like, nope, it's going to have to be us. And then they also get to the point where they realize, we want it to be us. Like, we're the ones that have been investing all this, and, like, we're the ones who been putting all of our energy into it and training for it, and also, like, how it's, like, it should be us. Like, we're the ones that, like, know Koro-sensei better than anyone. Especially Nagisa, who is one of the main characters, and you're not going to be the only one who's I honestly, when I first saw Nagisa, I'm like, is that a boy or girl? And it is a boy, but even within the show, like, that's a recurring thing. Like, even other characters are like, oh, you're actually a boy? We thought you were a girl. Like, it was just So it is, that character is purposely androgynous, and it's not just your imagination. So, but like, he's the one that like, he has the most natural assassination talent that no one ever expects, because he's very good about just being below the radar and you just not realizing he's about to strike. But he's also, he's the one that's taking the most notes. He's also the one he's very much like the voice of the series, I would say. Like, he is frequently the narrator, so like, he is the main character, I would say, besides Koro-sensei. And I do adore Nagisa. And then one of the other major characters is Karma, who I adore. Karma. I love characters that are in that ambiguous gray area as far as if they're good or bad. He is, basically, he is a bit of a sociopath. Like, he's definitely a sadist, but he's really excited to join E-Class, even though he's like one of the smartest students, because he got basically put there because he beat up some kids, some of his classmates who were picking on E-Class, and like, the teacher didn't have his back, so he got put in E-Class. So when he gets back from his suspension, he's really excited about being put in E-Class. He's like, I finally get to kill a teacher. I've always wanted, and he is sorry, sirens are going off, which are disturbing the cat, as you can see. He just, your obligatory cameo in my videos. Anyways, but yeah, Karma, he's very clever, and like, but he's vicious, and he's also like the best fighter in groups. So, like, he's the person that like everyone assumes is gonna be the one to do it, because like, he basically has all this, and like, he is very good at manipulating people. Like, he knows what things to say to trigger people. Like, there's a baseball game that they do eventually, and like, he knows just how to do the smack talk to get people riled up. So I love Karma, and like, he's devilish, and like, there's a point where like, the characters are talking about like who they, like, the guys are being like, oh, which of the girls do you have a crush on? And obviously you can't choose the class beauty. And Karma's like, well, I like this girl who is the nerdy girl who's really into chemistry. It's like, oh, wow, really? It's like, yeah, we could come up with all these crazy poisons. And it's like, so it's basically, he doesn't even think of her as like a love interest. It's just more so he thinks that she has useful skills in assassination. So Karma is wonderful depth, and I adore those kind of characters. But yeah, as the show is very unique, and one of the things, I'm just gonna keep on gushing. One of the things I find interesting is a lot of times with these type of shows where it's like high school or middle school, like, there's usually just a couple characters developed, and then the rest of the class doesn't really matter. Like, it'll be the main characters, and then maybe a couple side characters, and that's it. There are a lot of side characters in this, but they thought about each one of the characters. Like, each one has some sort of strength or some sort of moment. Even though, like, it is a very unusual class, and they get some very unusual transfer students later on, including an AI, which is actually pretty cool. Like, Ritsu is pretty cool, and basically is this whole game changer for them. But yeah, like, as I said, like, there's characters who are like, there's like the group of like the thugs that kind of hang out together, and they end up doing really well in the home economics exam. And like, there's definitely different groups of people, and like, they be like, oh, this person's, her strength is that she's a gymnast, so we never know what she's gonna do, and she attacks her. Like, oh, this person's really into murder mystery mangas. It's like, they just have like pretty much something for every character. And like, you're honestly, some of the characters you're not gonna necessarily remember. Like, honestly, the baseball guy and the male class representative, I kind of get them confused because they have similar like cheery dispositions, and they kind of look similar. Although rewatching it like my third time, I'm starting to see a little bit more of them. But it's like, it kind of doesn't necessarily matter so much with certain characters. But yeah, like, I do appreciate they have thought about every single character in the class. Like, it's like, okay, these guys are good snipers, these people are good at this person's interested in this. Like, they think about it. It's like, oh, this girl's really into nature and knows about bug collecting, which I cannot picture being a thing in the US, but I know is a big thing in Japan. But yeah, so those are all, like, as I said, like, kind of cool things. And as I think the premise is interesting, where it's like they're working to kill their teacher, who's the one who's helping them more than anyone else has helped. And so it's that weird thing. It's like being like, it's like they know they have to try killing him, but they kind of don't want to. But they're also taking advantage of every chance they can get. And yeah, there's definitely like some of the episodes are just like slice of life. Like, hey, I'm having trouble, like, exams. Like, I love how they do the exams, because they're competing against the other classes for rankings, and there will be bets sometimes involved. And the thing is, like, I love how they portray it, how it's like, they'll portray, like, it's like, oh, it's not just people filling out tests, it's like, it's portrayed like, oh, we're like gladiators fighting monsters and such, and just like showing like how like crazy the tests, like the feeling of the test experience is for them. Or yeah, as I said, like sometimes it's just like little slice of life things, sometimes it's crazy, there's other people in there, like there are other assassinations involved, like when their female language arts teacher is a female assassin who, honestly, it's hard to respect her, especially since they call her Professor Bitch, because her name is Iona Jelovich. Some I don't know. But she's also like she's a bitch to them. So like she kind of deserves it, and she's very immature. And you a lot of times are like, why is she so successful? And every once in a while you see it's like be like, okay, I see how she's able to do what she does. I just don't think she's a great language arts teacher personally, but she is part of the group. And yeah, there's definitely like certain characters who have turnarounds that you don't expect and have their moments of being like, okay, they kind of change sides. And there's other assassins in the mix. But yeah, so this is another good thing about the series is that one thing I like about animes is that with the exception of like certain of like the Shonen Jump ones that just go on forever, like Bleach and Inuyasha and DBZ and such, like a lot of animes like have built in like, okay, there's only gonna be this many episodes. This is where the story's gonna end. So, for instance, like Psycho-Pass, that was an amazing series. It only had 2 seasons. That's the same thing with Assassination Classroom. Only 2 seasons, but it does what it needs to do. Both seasons are very solid, and there's some wonderful twists in there, and there's some moments where some great moments, and I love a lot of the creativity and such. So, like, it's really character driven, and it's a really unique concept. But like, for instance, like one of the creative things is like someone tries assassinating him by the fact that there's an egg surplus, and like, hey, let's make a giant pudding for him, laced with all the anti-me BBs, and so it's like there's a lot of like really creative things that happen, so it's really cool. And like the teacher's always encouraging them of any of their attempts. Like one of them even tries like getting his weakness with her smut, because he is definitely a sucker. And yeah, I don't want to reveal too much, but like, yeah, like Koro-sensei's really complicated, in-depth character. Like most of the characters have layers to them. I do love the twists and turns that happen. So yeah, a very solid series. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites. I'm trying to cut down on buying DVDs. Like I have over 300. I might have over 400. Although I don't have that many series. And like as far as anime seasons, I think I have like, series. I think I have like only like a half dozen or so. But this is one where if I saw it as a good deal, I would totally buy it. Same as I want Full Metal Alchemist and Yu Yu Hakusho. Those are like some of the ones where I'm like, I want. Oh, and Morbido and Eden the East, but yeah. Another good series, like if you want to strip away the over the top fantasy elements that I would recommend is Silver Spoon. Would be really good because that's a really good high school series where like it has like lots of crazy characters, and like I think it's just like it kind of like does a good like slice of life, but like sometimes has like the absurd characters, but also like somewhat grounded at the same time. I'm trying to think what else would be a good one, but yeah, like I said, like I would love to have had a Koro-sensei and a Kurosama as my teachers growing up. Like I would have loved having people that were like that, like invested in me and loving towards me. So yeah. All right. Anyways, I highly recommend it. Watch it. Out of all the things I recommend, this is one of the ones where it's like, please watch it. It's so good. And I feel like, as I said, it's so under the radar. All right. That's it for now. Talk to you guys later. Bye. And continue enjoying your own vices. Bye. There's the mouse. There's the button. There it is. Go.